So, good evening. So this is chapter 6. I will be adding this discussion so that we can have two chapters for your exam. So, the topics will be discussed here are the following: technology, so time space compression and distanciation, mass media, the internet, and social media. So the first concept here is time space compression. So it's actually a concept coined by David Harvey, which describes a world in which people feel that the world becomes smaller. So space is shrinking. You can be able to travel from one country to another through the innovation in transportation. And people feel that they are more interconnected due to the advances in technology, particularly in communication. So what is emphasized here is the importance of innovations like airplane, high-speed rail to actually shrink the space, and then the internet and mobile phones to reduce the time required to be able to interact with people who are maybe living in the different parts of the world, or yeah. So the creation of the world's first container in 1956 is actually the first significant innovation or maybe achievement of the global world, because it was able to compress time and space in the field of commerce. Because during this period, what was created were actually monster ships that can carry 19,000 containers, equivalent to over 20 miles of trucks. So the invention also of the universal package delivery in 1974 greatly expedited product movement to warehouses and retail outlets worldwide. So this compression, this time space compression, actually influences, as was mentioned a while ago, economic and also social and cultural interactions. Because through time space compression, people and also goods can move across the world more quickly, and global events are experienced in real time. So, time space compression is actually an important factor that contributes to globalization, affecting local cultures and economies while reshaping perception and of proximity and distance. So through time-space compression, we have what we call transnational families, which means that people can still do family despite the fact that they are actually that there is distance separating family members. Another term here is time-space distanciation. So this concept was developed by Anthony Giddens, a sociologist, to explain how innovations altered modern social interactions, because it allows relationship to extend or to expand independently and exist independently of immediate physical proximity or without continuous face-to-face interaction. So, the stretching of social relations, meaning to say you can actually maintain your relationship even without face-to-face interaction, and you can do it across space and time. Meaning to say you can do family, or maybe to maintain your long distance relationship despite the differences in time and differences in location through technology. So, for instance, with modern technology and social structure like the use of social networking sites, people can actually mother or father their children in their home country, like what OFWs are doing. So, if we are to differentiate these two concepts, the first concept, time space compression, Harvey, the one who coined the term, sees the implosion or the expansion of time space and space as driven by global capitalism and its corporation, meaning to say it actually promotes economic, financial, migration of people, movement of goods, and maybe services to actually promote globalization or global capitalism. In the same manner, or on the contrary, Giddens sees time-space distanciation as actually driven by technological change because through innovation, people are able to maintain their relationship. However, the drive to maintain relationship is independent of capital pursuit of profit, meaning to say, relationships are not that materialistic. People do family, we have what we call transnational families, or we have long distance relationship. People do that not because of profit or not because of material gains, but because of some various reasons like sense of belongingness, sense of purpose, um, level of attachment, etc., etc. So the innovation of technologies is actually very helpful for not only for individuals but also for the government. For instance, these technologies are used for military operations, like having satellites um, to actually aid the surveillance of governments for crucial civilians. On the other hand, individuals can also have GPS enabled devices, especially embedded in our smartphones or iPhones for city navigation. Like you use Waze or Google Map to actually locate a place you want to go to. So space-based technologies goes beyond that because we have what we call microsatellites, and these satellites are gaining commercial application, and these satellites are actually located on space. And non-military developments like Virgin Galactic and SpaceX aim to compress distance between people and outer space. So because of these space-based technologies, even the idea of what they call space tourism is actually possible. That people who can afford the fee of traveling to space for tourism purposes is already possible. So the innovation of robots has also implication to economic production. So it says here that robotics or robots are increasingly being used in various sectors. For instance, in Japan, robots aid doctors in performing surgeries or medical operations. Also, in fast foods, robots can also produce 360 hamburgers an hour. So another concept here is electronic offshoring. So some works are made more efficient through communication technologies and is actually a benefit for countries receiving jobs. So in the Philippines, we have this BPO, or we call centers. So they perform the jobs that should be performed by people in the country they are actually serving, because for one, the salary is lower if you do the job in countries that are less developed. For instance, um, a company operating in the US have their customer service hotline, and instead of hiring Americans to actually receive the complaints or maybe to aid their customers in handling or maybe dealing with the products, they actually do some electronic offshoring. So for instance, in the Philippines, Filipinos will try to mimic the accent of Americans in that particular state, and they address these queries of the customers. So another concept here is leapfrogging. So it is defined as the bypassing by developing nations of earlier technologies and adoption of more advanced ones. So we have the idea that before a country can be technologically developed, they are to follow the footsteps of the more developed or more technologically advanced countries. However, because some countries have already made the innovation, these developing nations or poorer nations no longer have to go through the process of actually doing the step by step thing to develop that product. What they need to do is actually to engage into what we call technology transfer. So in the Philippines, for instance, we do not have the capacity to to develop our own automobile industry. So what we need to do is just to purchase the technology that was developed by, for instance, Japan or by Germany. So that's the idea of leapfrogging. You're like a frog leaping or maybe skipping the process of actually developing that product, because in globalization, people can actually, in the global market, countries can actually purchase the commodities that their countries are unable to produce. So here it says that mobile communication technologies have helped marginalized communities like the Bedouin to acquire a voice and integrate them into civil society. So ganito kasi yon. Yung Bedouin na society is actually a very traditional and very backward, as you call it, backward society. So no electricity, so no internet. So parang people are that mm, parang traditional or maybe uncivilized, or ano pa ba ibang term doon. So parang medyo ganon, parang backward talaga yung kanilang life ways if you compare it to the modern world. However, because of the presence or of technology in their community, they were able to utilize this technology to voice out to the world the problems that are encountered by the community. So it says here that most technologies that spread through leapfrogging do not reach many people, spread widely, or have comparable capabilities to traditional technological advancement. So ang ini-emphasize lang naman sa leapfrogging ay even those who are part of the third world or who are considered least developed nations or poor nations can take advantage of the technology developed by first world countries or by powerful countries, and they can use these technologies to empower their community. So that's the basic actually premise of technological innovation and technology transfer. So another important innovation is mass media, and this pertains to newspapers, radio, television, and film. So the idea of media is to reach large audiences. And these forms of media also facilitate time-space compression and distanciation. For instance, sa ABS-CBN, meron tayong mga bayan patroller who actually share maybe a video clip of an accident or of something that is important that that happened in society. So so through this, people who are not present in that event may be able to know what is happening in that place. So sa nagdaan na bagyong si Christine, so wala tayo sa Bicol or sa Albay, pero nakita natin kung paano na devastate yung area. And because of what media is showing to us, some of us would actually participate sa mga donation drive, o kaya naman nagvo-volunteer to actually pack goods for those who are affected by the typhoon, mga ganong tipo. So ang sinasabi dito, napaka-powerful ng mass media, and the people who control mass media controls information or control information in society. So this is the reason why sometimes if a specific network is too critical to a government, to the government can do some actions to suppress that critical thing or yung critical thinking nung network. Nung panahon ni Duterte, alam naman natin na wala ng prangkisa ang ABS-CBN at nag-ooperate lang sila online. So, operating online actually dinidisable nito yung network na maging accessible siya sa mga tao na walang internet. So, kung ganito, parang yung kung paano niya i-view or maging critical siya sa government, hindi siya maririnig sa radyo or hindi din siya mapapanood sa television ng mga tao sa mga far-flung areas ng bansa. So, importante yan. Nung panahon ng martial law, may media takeover ang government, tas ang ABS during that time ay nagsara. Kasi nga, yung freedom of expression nung time na yon, tas nagkaroon ng media blackout. Kaya hindi din nalaman ng ibang mga tao kung anong nangyari sa government. So, ganun ka-importante ang mass media. Kasi nga, fina-facilitate niya ang time-space compression. Parang nakikita mo, parang there's a sense of community. So nalalaman ng mga tao na sa Pilipinas ganito ang nangyari because of television o kaya naman sa film. Minsan through films ay nilalarawan ko anong nangyari sa isang bansa. Halimbawa, yung Holocaust noon sa Germany, yung pagpatay, yung human rights violation sa mga Hudyo na pinatay sila noon sa Germany. Ito ay actually kinapture ng mga movie like yung The Pianist at saka yung Schindler's List na pinakita kung paano pinahirapan yung mga Hudyo. So marami pang pelikula ang ganito na nire-reflect nito kung ano yung historical context at saka yung political situation nung panahon na yung movie ay ginawa or nire-represent ng movie. Yung time-space distanciation naman through mass media, hindi ba, naalala ko dati nung bata ako, sa mga newspapers, merong mga ano yan, parang pen pal, wanted pen pal. Tapos may mga tao mahilig magsulat. Minsan nga, yung mga hindi nga nakaka-afford ng newspaper, ang ginagawa nila dun sa pera, yung 20 pesos, kasi yung pinakamababang, actually hindi, may 2 pesos, pero sa 20 pesos or 10 peso bill, nilalagay nila yung name nila, yung address nila, tapos parang umaasa sila na baka mayroong makakita ng pera na yun, mag-circulate yun sa ibang parts ng bansa, at maging interested na maging kapenpal sila, parang ganong tipo. So ang idea mo ay to actually reach large audiences and to expand yung yung relationship na pwede mong buuin through the help of mass media. So ang sabi dito, yung mass media messages strongly resemble liquids and particularly gases. Why liquid? Kasi di ba pag liquid, hindi naman siya definite. Nagbabago siya. Depende kung sinong tumitingin. Depende kung sinong nagre-report. Naalala ko dati nung college, ay hindi, nung graduate school, master sa UP, may kaklase kaming, ano siya, reporter. And according to her, kapag halimbawa merong scandal yung isang politician at gusto niyang i-silence yung media, ang gagawin niya magpapa-press con siya. Tapos dun sa press con niya, meron siyang parang pasobre dun sa mga a-attend. Pera yun. So, hindi natin alam kung 50,000, 20,000 or whatsoever. Tapos kasama dito yung hotel accommodation nila. So, kung mapapansin nyo minsan sa TV, di ba may mga news na paulit-ulit na itong family na ito, itong personality na ito ang na-feature. Then out of nowhere, biglang nag-shift yung pinag-uusapan sa media. So parang ganun siya, liquid siya. Hindi siya forever nandun. Depende sa kung sino ang may control sa media. Kung ano ang magiging content ng mga information na masasagap ng mga tao. So ang problematic dito, if mass media is dominated by trolls, yung mga troll kasi ito yung mga tao na nagpapakalat ng fake news. Problematic siya kung yung nagko-control ng mass media allows the dominance of this fake news dun sa mga information na sinishare nila sa mga tao. Halimbawa sa mga naniniwala na ang martial law talaga is actually one of the dark periods in Philippine history, nagagalit sila dun sa mga sinasabi nating nag-engage into historical revisionism that they tend to actually reframe, they tend to revise history, and come up with information that states that martial law is the period wherein the Philippines has reached its glorious parang moment na parang pinaka economically successful ang bansa, something like that. So, ibig sabihin nito, yung mass media is actually a space where people can actually parang rebut each other's claim, parang ganong tipo. So, sabi ko nga kanina na ang media is actually liquid, so meaning to say, hindi siya neutral, hindi siya objective. It's actually a way of interpreting kung anong nangyayari sa society. And also media para siyang gas. Kung ano yung information na sinasabi niya ngayon pwedeng susunod or sa makalawa ay hindi na ito yung pinag-uusapan sa mga mass media. So another concept here na related dito is yung idea of media imperialism. It's actually a subcategory ng heading ng cultural imperialism. Ano ba yung imperialism? Di ba yung imperialism is domination? Yung term na imperialism dati, it's a domination of a more powerful country na merong more powerful military to actually dominate politically and economically ang isang less or weaker nation state, something like that. However, we no longer live in a period of imperialism. Pero merong tinatawag na cultural imperialism. It's actually an indirect way of colonizing or maybe dominating the culture of less developed or developing nations. So the idea of cultural imperialism is that it was the Western, especially the US media, and the technologies associated with those media that were imperialistic and that dominated less developed nations and their cultures. So aminin man natin o hindi, 'di ba sa cultural imperialism, parang media imperialism, ano ba yung tinitignan nating magagandang movies, 'di ba yung mga Hollywood movies? Actually nito-nito na lang naman nauso yung Netflix. Na nasa Netflix ang pinapanood natin ay yung mga Korean movies. Pero before, pag sinabi mong actor ang iisipin mo, sina Tom Cruise, sina Brad Pitt. Ibig sabihin, dapat alam mo tong mga to kung gusto mong medyo cool ka sa mga kabatch mo during my time. Kasi nga, we look up to US culture, yung pop culture nila, yung music nila. Kaya nga, di ba, minsan yung mga US Billboard, parang feeling natin ang gandang pakinggan, dapat meron ako nito sa phone ko kasi nasa US top 100 or top 10 ano nila, parang sa billboard nila, something like that. So ang idea dito ay yung ating media, yung technologies natin is actually dominated by Western culture. So parang yung Bollywood, tinatawanan natin kasi India yan eh, parang ginaya yan sa Hollywood. Kasi di ba parang we look after Hollywood, parang ganong tipo. So parang kung i-compare mo yung mga teleserye natin, parang ano siya, parang ang shallow niya. At saka parang in terms of the quality of technology, parang ang layo-layo niya sa mga technologies na ginagamit sa West, something like that. So, ang idea lang dito sa media imperialism, another idea is that since US and Western countries are very powerful, they actually may be owning yung Facebook at yung iba pang mga technologies na ginagamit natin. So sometimes, actually, merong idea that they take advantages of this technology to actually disseminate information that are beneficial to their country, na yung image ng country nila ay mas magiging maganda. So parang kung makikita natin kukonti yung mga mass media na hindi kontrolado ng US, manunood ka ng international news, CNN, o kaya naman BBC. So itong mga media na ito ay actually promoting the interest of the government they are part of, parang ganong tipo. Well, actually, 'di ba, because media imperialism is actually associated with the domination of the West. But the question is, why American media is not powerful as they once were or have been thought to be? So pag sinabi nating music ngayon, parang hindi, or music or dance or group, parang girl group or boy group, mga ganong tipo, hindi na American media ang nagdo-dominate. Ang reason dito ay meron na kasi tayong mga alternative global media giants. They have arisen to compete with those emanating from the West. So actually, ang pinaka-popular ngayon is mga K-pop groups or yung mga Korean dramas or Korean movies. Actually, kung titignan nyo sa Netflix, meron ding mga Chinese ano dyan, drama series, parang ganong tipo. So parang itong mga to, dahil meron ng alternative, tsaka feeling ko baka medyo nakakasawa na rin manood ng mga American media. So we tend to actually try subscribing to the alternative global media giants. So another important source of diverse media of all sorts is the internet. And it says here that the global distribution ng American movie or television, ang problem dito kasi, minsan the intention of the movie may be different on how it is understood by those who are watching it. So, pwedeng iba-iba yung interpretation natin sa media. That is why siguro sinasabi kanina na yung mass media is liquid or gas. So, a reality or a movie or a film, a film, a movie, or whatever can have various interpretations depending on where or the location, maybe the race, the social class of those who are interpreting that mass media. So, we have the new global media. So, ito yung Apple, Facebook, Twitter, Google, etc. with great power to impose their system on large portions of the world. And what is the common among these things? These things are actually associated with the US society. So, parang nagiging standard. Ah, parang ano siya, parang yung bang Facebook, parang nai-impose na siya na parang kung wala kang Facebook, parang you are disconnected to the rest of the world. Parang dapat ano ka, meron kang gadget na ano, na Apple, meron kang iPhone, dapat may Twitter ka if you want to rant, mga ganong tipo. So, dapat may email ka. Kung wala kang email, paano ka maging estudyante ng CLSU, paano ka mag-engage sa Google Classroom, something like that. So, kung makikita natin, imposing siya. Kasi parang people are required to have these things for them to be able to efficiently function in the organization they are part of, especially if these organizations are subscribing to this new global media. Actually, media should be independently operating. So there should be competition among media players, like dapat meron kang ABS, GMA, dapat hindi sila dapat magkakasama. But that common trend now is actually these major players, they engage through mergers of various types. So global media, halimbawa sinasabi that Facebook owns Google, the owner of Facebook, Google, and what else, Gmail, and YouTube is actually isang tao lang, parang ganong tipo. So if that happens, um, global media, seem to be increasingly dominated by a relatively small number of huge corporations. So if that is the case, so yung information is controlled by these very few people. Because if you control, sabi ko nga, if you control media, you control the information. And that is power. So ito medyo patok siya yung online social networking. So yung mga sites na alam natin, Facebook, we have Twitter, Instagram, linked, involve communication, networking, and the creation of friendship networks among their users. So merong importanteng concept dito kasi di ba pag sinabi mong consumers, these are the people who buy commodities that are produced by for instance by capitalists. Meron tayong prosumers. Prosumers, ito yung mga tao who simultaneously produce what they consume. Like for instance, you produce media that you consume. Nagbablog ka and you consume internet in doing it, something like that. Prosumers. Ito yung mga content creators, di ba? Kinukonsume, halimbawa, meron kang kinukonsume and then yung kinukonsume mo ay nagpo-produce ka ng parang content for that and you are actually awaiting na mapansin ka ni Meta. Halimbawa, ganun, parang makakuha ka ng maano ka, ma-monetize yung effort mo, mga ganun. So here, it says that China had its first internet in 1994. However, yung internet connection in China the access was limited at heavily regulated ng government yung kanilang mga internet sites. I think for some time, ang Facebook ay hindi accessible sa China. So parang ano lang, so because of the internet noong 2000, nag-take advantage ng Chinese government at ginamit nila yung internet for e-commerce. So if we are going to count the largest number of internet users globally, sa China ito, surpassing 1 billion users. Siguro kasi sila yung pinakamaraming tao sa mundo. So accordingly, yung mobile internet usage nila ay dumami talaga. Tapos naging primary source of access yung smartphones. In the Philippines, ganun din naman. So ang popular sa kanila yung WeChat, Weibo, yung TikTok. So because the Chinese government is actually strict, sabi nga limited lang yung access sa internet, the Chinese government created the Great Firewall. Ito yung Golden Shield project ng Chinese government to actually conduct censorship and surveillance policy. So may mga, sabi ko nga, may mga websites na ang access ay restricted, may mga social platforms na hindi accessible, tsaka may mga content na feeling ng Chinese government is deemed inappropriate or threatening political stability. So the policy uses technologies, binablock nila yung IP, may mga filtering, So the impact is significant, restricting freedom of expression and information access for millions of people. And it usually happens if the government is maybe authoritarian, socialist, or communist, because they do not want their citizens to access information on how people enjoy their freedom from the rest of the world, and comparing their situation, and then because they experience deprivation, they will be demanding the government to offer them the same freedom people from other parts of the world are enjoying, so as not to arrive at that point that people will protest or be critical of the government. So ang ginagawa ng China is actually to censor na lang yung kanilang access to information. Actually, ang question kasi 'di ba parang free-flowing ang information, may mga internet fraud, may mga hacking. So parang nagkaroon ng parang fight or maybe yung demand for global internet governance. It's like proposing that there should be a body or an organization who will regulate the flow of information in the internet. So in 2012, yung Russia at saka yung iba pang mga countries, they actually proposed yung i-shift mo yung governance authority to international body and individual states. Like merong magre-regulate. However, yung American government does the opposite. So publicly, sinabi ng American government that they wanted to promote a free and open internet and opposed broader internet censorship. It has aggressively, albeit secretly, engaged in surveillance of both domestic and international internet communication. So parang ganito yan eh. Parang sinasabi ng US na okay, gusto namin ng open use of the internet, ayaw namin ng may censorship. Kaya lang ang ironic dito, yung US kasi secretly nag-e-engage siya ng surveillance, hindi lang ng domestic pati ng international and internet communication. So naalala ko dati nung nasa grad school ako, parang meron palang mga messages. Halimbawa, yung message mo ay may ganitong word at yung word na ito sa US military ay parang code siya. So parang maging under surveillance ka na kasi baka terrorist ka, mga ganong tipo. Ano pa ba? Naalala ko din parang sa ewan ko kung it's in Europe na parang meron silang surveillance na parang yung mga stealth na tinatawag ng mga jet na yung mga hindi na-detect sa radar. So parang itatapat mo lang siya sa building hanggang babayan parang na-scan niya yun na parang nakikita niya yung mga tao dun sa loob. So parang kung napanood niyo yung Enemy of the State, na kapag yung mukha mo ay na-register sa system, parang kaya kang hanapin ng government kung fugitive ka. Kasi yung mga CCTVs, parang kayang i-monitor kung nasaan ka, parang ganung tipo. So parang yun naman yung tulog ng American government na okay, wag nating wag nating i-regulate yung internet use, pero sila naman ay nagsusurveillance ng mga kahina-hinalang mga tao maybe or entities that they think are putting risk or parang promoting risk dun sa kanilang society. So, even activist groups are taking advantage of global media. Kasi di ba pag activists, usually they go sa street with their placards and demanding for change or reforms in the government. So, inelevate nila yung kanilang advocacies through social media. At meron tayong mga tinatawag na mga social movements. So, yung mga social movement are actually, they emerge wherever there are injustices. So, kung halimbawa, meron tayong mga tinatawag na boycott. Naalala ko yung previous class ko, yung mga estudyante doon, sabi nila, they are part of the organization calling for the boycotting of McDonald's and other corporations that are supporting the genocide in the Israel-Palestine war, something like that. Social movement yon. Ang social movement, dapat nating maintindihan that they are organized because they have witnessed or maybe they are supportive of efforts to fight injustices, exploitation, ano pa ba? Mga ganon, mga negative things sa mundo. Actually, one example of social movement ay yung tinatawag na Arab Spring. So parang ito yung series ng revolution or protest sa Arab world. So, ang example nito is the Egyptian Revolution in 2010. Na-inspire yung revolution ng Tunisian Revolution, yung revolution sa Tunisia, and it sparked by the brutal death of Khalid Mohammed, ano ba to? Saed, a 20-year-old Egyptian man who was severely beaten and died while in police custody. Photographs, so ang nangyari, yung photographs niya na disfigured ang face niya, naging viral siya online. At nag-mobilize siya ng discontent ng populace against yung presidente nila during that time. So ginamit ng mga protesters yung social media at meron silang Facebook group na ang title ay We Are Khaled Said to organize mass protest. Meron pa isang example eh. So parang ang ginawa niya, sinilaban ata niya ng yung sarili niya. Parang ganong tipo. Parang protesta yon dahil during that time, parang street vendor siya, tapos kino-confiscate yung mga ano nila, yung mga paninda. So parang na-capture din siya ng media at nag-ano siya, nag-arise siya ng iba't ibang protesta at negative emotion towards the government. So parang ang sinasabi lang dito, halimbawa, nung panahon ng war on drugs, di ba merong isang naging biktima na parang mistaken identity, tas parang nalaman ng mga pulis ang pumatay sa kanya. Parang ganong tipo. So kung i-highlight mo yun sa media, paulit-ulit na nakikita ng mga tao na critical sa government, pwede siyang pagsimulan ng social change.